Welcome back to the Music Industry Podcast. This is a really interesting one today because it covers a lot of different areas for artists looking to grow. We're joined by someone from Ultra Records, huge record label acquired by Sony. And yeah, we cover a lot of things, but I think one of the main things that is good from this episode is the why an artist wants to succeed and how to use that to really push you into growth.
And it's a good time to mention that if you're an artist that is looking for marketing, that extra push, getting extra streams, then we are a marketing agency. Go to burstamo.com, check out what we do and see if there's anything on there that you think would be benefit to you. And if you think that we're a right fit, then do get in touch. Today we have Mike Burns, Senior Marketing Manager from Ultra Music. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Just worked out that we worked together a few years ago.
Yeah. How long ago do you think it was? Like 5, 6 years ago?
I'm gonna say even further than that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
6 years maybe.
Yeah. We've been going for like 7, 8 years now. So yeah, the background of that is one of our first ever clients that we worked with, we ended up helping them get signed to Ultra because I knew one of the A&Rs. They came to one of the gigs, they got signed to Ultra, and then we did a campaign with you guys.
That's right.
It's just such a small world because I recognized your email address, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But now you sat here, you're joining us.
So Ultra Music is obviously part of Sony, and when we worked with them, it's quite, to my eyes, quite a unique label in a sense where you've got your own YouTube channels and you've got a lot of playlists and things like that where you've already got a platform for the artists. So what do you want to take us through a little bit about Ultra and what they do and you do?
So Ultra was always kind of a US based dance label. And so we've traditionally signed talent kind of from the US, and the artists that are kind of on Ultra's roster back a good while ago, names like Calvin Harris, Icona Pop, and they're actually still signed to us. So we're still working on Icona Pop. In fact, we did a little event around the corner recently. But yeah, Ultra's been based out of the US, but always had like an international footprint. So we've always had reps in every other market. So the main markets, we're talking like GSA, the MENA markets, France, Benelux, even Asia. And so that's kind of what we've prided ourselves on in the past, is having an international footprint in everywhere and growing artists like consistently in those markets. I think what Anton alluded to in the previous podcast is putting the groundworks in to then build from there. And then when the time's right is, pressing the green button when they have that hit and just, we can send it then to another level. And since then, I'll move on in the timeline. Sony acquired Ultra 100%. So it was originally 50-50 owned, this is my understanding. And then Sony bought out the other half and wants to build this as a brand, under its umbrella. You've got your likes of Ministry and RCA and everyone. But I think the point with Ultra and acquiring Ultra was actually about having like a US Ministry of Sound. Mm-hmm. That was my interpretation. That's kind of what I've heard through the grapevine, I suppose. And so with that comes still, we've got to have this global footprint. We've got to be good in every market. And then what we often find now is when songs start to bubble up and do really well. For example, let's talk about Pedro by Jacksamy. And that song you'll know is Pedro. Yeah,
the one with the raccoon.
Yeah, the raccoon. Yeah. So that was one of ours. And but the rights, unfortunately for me anyway, went off to another label in the UK. Because I'd love to have been a part of that campaign. Of course, it was great. But in the US, it's still Ultra, and a lot of the marketing ideas and everything obviously came from our team.
So you're UK based. Mm-hmm. So are you predominantly working on the marketing in the UK and then communicating with the other countries to say, like, we're seeing potential here, and here? Like, how does your job work being based in the UK when there's quite a big focus in other areas?
Yeah, definitely it's that. It's what opportunities can we take advantage of here in the UK, the ones that we see that are fitting. A lot of the sound crosses over from the US. They look at us as kind of front runners, like the UK market, it really is. Leading the way in compared to like Germany, I suppose, they take after our trends maybe a month later. Our GSA rep will even say that. There's no slight on on Germany, but it's we're very much at the start of most trends, and so that's why of course it's an important market. And my job is to make sure we get in with the right people early. So I'm doing the radio pitching for Ultra with BBC Radio 1, KISS, all those guys. And then DSPs talking to the dance reps like, Amazon, Spotify, Apple, on a consistent basis, just to make sure that proposition is communicated consistently from when we sign them all the way through to, like you say, that moment when it's meant to happen.
I feel like we haven't spoken about radio very often on this podcast. I mean, we had Abby McCarthy on, so BBC Introducing, BBC Radio 1 presenter, and she obviously had a whole episode about radio, but in terms of from the label's perspective, we actually haven't spoken about radio pitching, so obviously it's a huge part of your job. A lot of people, I think, are in the mindset of DSPs all the way, maybe get some press for credibility side, but that's that. You're still very hot on radio.
Yeah, radio is really interesting how it's kind of changed over the last couple of years, I think. So COVID was massive, of course, and it changed everyone's listening habits in many ways. And so, I remember the COVID days of my dad dancing around the kitchen to Capital Dance. You got him on at 3 p.m. and I love that. I was there with him in the kitchen dancing away. And so, that's what radio does. I think it has that effect, and we can't forget that, because now we're starting to see that labels don't give it so much value. Because they're not seeing the impressions, they're not seeing it translate into actual reaction. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes you see an obvious, clear reaction. Sometimes you don't, and also the radio shows know that as well. They have their ways of testing. If the tracks are doing well or not doing so well.
Do you have to build up to radio in a sense where you take on an artist and do you go all out and you're going to the biggest stations from the off? Or do you have to say, actually, that artist's not quite there yet? Let's build up and we'll get a smaller station and then we'll get the bigger station and grow from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's starting with the smaller stations, getting those spot plays. Let's talk about the KISS specialist shows. And I think a lot of people take these for granted as well. It's a great look to have, spot plays at KISS FM. It's a great look with Select Radio, who are a London-based radio station. Voices Radio, which I just literally walked past, the community radio station. Fantastic little setup there. They offer opportunities for artists to put that groundwork in and then build to the next thing. If they can prove themselves a little bit there, they move on and they transition into, let's say, your hottest records, you have an interview, or there's much bigger opportunities that can come down the line. There's certainly a building game that happens. You start, of course, you just introduce them, and we usually do a presentation, I suppose, for the particular producer or the radio station to introduce them to the artists, and then you just constantly keep them to date, I suppose, on their journey, their story.
So you're kind of trying to show them that they're worth the time on the show by saying okay, this person's interested, this is working on social, just proving to them that it's someone worthwhile. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's also trying to make their story, speaking from the artist, the marketing for the artist, trying to make their story relevant to the UK market, because, like I say, we work with a lot of international talent that we're trying to break here.
By international, is that what countries is that?
Well, we signed them out of the US, but we sign talent all over the world as well. So we've got Klingard in France. We've got Josie, who's also based out of France, but he's from Israel. Who else have we got? I kind of pop from Sweden. Yeah. So some really cool names, and of course their markets champion them. They love them, because they're relatively established artists, and their home markets they definitely champion them, but to get all the other markets on board, I feel like you need to appeal to their, the kind of there's a bit of a stubbornness in the UK. I feel about who we pick and who we use and who we support. And I think there is a little bit of a stubbornness in the UK that we need to overcome. We need to give more artists a bit of a chance to to have their music heard here, because there's such great music coming internationally. And they do look at us, like I said earlier, as kind of trendsetters. And so when they come in, when they see like the likes of TCTS or Danny Howard supporting their music, they're absolutely overwhelmed. They're buzzing, because we're seen as the front running trend market.
With the spot plays you're getting on radio and things like that, do you ever find that it's because obviously it's down to a producer, a presenter as to what they're going to play? Do you find that one person can champion it and they can just say, you know what, I'm going to put this on rotation? Or is it more they do need proof from other tastemakers, the industry, to get behind it? Are there any examples of artists where radio's been like, yeah, love that, let's just play it, even though they haven't got that much credibility yet?
From my experience, no, I haven't had like someone go, absolutely, I can champion that, let's get on the playlist. Like it's never
kind of part of the missing puzzle piece. It's not like the whole puzzle, is it?
Yeah, but what you touched on there is like, different tastemakers championing the record at the same time. That definitely helps. I know, let's talk about BBC Radio 1. If Danny Howard plays it, then, Charlie Hedges' dance anthems, you kind of look to get a few spot plays in different, from different shows to then have a case to go forward with for that like wider playlist coverage. I think just a Radio 1 dance playlist. I think that would probably be the next step from the spot plays. And then they'd gauge how it reacts and that sort of stuff from there. And then, I mean, your numbers do have to be quite silly to be on that Radio 1 playlist conversation. And that's a challenge we've definitely come up against. I think in the past we've had records getting on the playlist purely because the producer or presenter loves that artist, or it's just they're bang on board with what they're doing right now. But that has changed. I've found in my experience with plugging for 3-4 years now, that's definitely changed. It's got to be more. It's more of a numbers game. It's got to be reacting in various places. It's the Shazams have got to be good. The streams have got to be great. And that makes it really tough, I think, for kind of your audience. We're talking about like emerging artists who are looking for tips and tricks to kind of come through. That does make it very hard. But I think my message I want to kind of get across here today is kind of for artists to focus in on themselves a bit more and their story, and focus on building that story rather than looking elsewhere. I think I listened to you, Alex, before mention this on one of the other podcasts about social media. And I thought you were bang on the money, because that's when I feel that needs to happen, a movement of artists to look back in and kind of go, what am I good at? What makes me unique? And just champion that. Just go with it, because the last thing you want to do is mimic someone else, and because it's already been done, first of all. And your numbers are going to be impacted because of the algorithm. And if you're putting out content which copies someone else, we found that with a lot of our artists, definitely.
Does the A&R work predominantly on like the narrative of the artist, or is that something you're involved with as well? Yeah,
with Ultra, definitely there's been a transition to that. It used to be, when we were fully independent, or say fully independent, it was 50% Sony, but we were operating purely as an independent label then. And that was definitely picking up more singles here and there. If one was reacting somewhere or something was trending, we'd pick it up immediately, put it out. That's absolutely changed. We look at artist propositions now. We're looking at the story, of course. What is the story? And I think looking a lot at them as well, as their personalities and things like that, and kind of really going on a deeper level. The music absolutely is first and foremost the most important thing. The music has to be great. I think second of all is it comes down to kind of social media, doesn't it? And I just kind of say that because it's the word that everyone's like, oh God, social media, TikTok. But for me, it's not actually about focusing on social media. It's about focusing on your story, and you can tell that story in different arenas. You don't have to be on social media doing it. It can be, I don't know, you could do pop-ups, you could do a pop-up street rave, you could do something like that, and allow other people to tell your story. They can all film it. You just partake in maybe resharing it or things like that.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, with the projects that we have, it's a case of sometimes artists will come to you and they're just like, oh, please just push me out. And then the followers are going to come, and then the streams are going to come, but it's not. They need something to connect with. And like you were saying, it's like, you've got to look at like what makes you unique, and like just like think within,
hmm
and then that will come out, whether it's in the press, whether it's on the radio, or social media, and content kind of comes to you, doesn't it, after a while? Once you figure that out,
Yeah.
instead of looking at the trends and end up doing a TikTok dance, you end up.
Well, yeah, the amount of artists that we get that do shove it back at us and go, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And you can sometimes think, well, of course, my ideas might not be good enough or something in this one case. Any marketing manager who tells you they haven't sent over a TikTok idea that that they're not proud of is lying. Because we've all sent over some that we're just like, or if you're using AI, even, I mean, that's a trend now in marketing. Everyone's kind of using AI to generate ideas. I suppose the problem with that is we're all doing it, and you end up coming up with similar sort of stuff. So I like to try and sit down and think of ideas myself before going to any AI sort of stuff. But
so is TikTok a big one for you? I mean, huge platform, but you do hear of labels kind of stepping back from socials a little bit just because it's so oversaturated. Is Ultra very much focused still on TikTok? And
we've had a few TikTok hits just this year. We had Jacksamy with Pedro. We've got this Ukrainian artist who's quite exciting called Frozy. And I'll tell you what he does is he kind of just puts out, your DAW logic or Ableton, what you can see on the screen. It's just it goes through the song. When he presses play, it goes through the song. You can see all the MIDI notes.
Yeah.
Well, his social media is quite simple. He puts up clips of him and his ideas that he's been creating in the studio, and they blow up on TikTok. They blow up, and he has this community of people that kind of take his sound and they just do their own thing with it. And so there's this one record, it's Frozy, Compa. It's called Compa Passion, and this song just blew up. And you might know it actually. I'm not going to sing it, but it's really, when you hear it, you'll be like, well, that's that. And this one blew up by a PlayStation cover trend on social media. So what it would do is the screen you'd take a picture of yourself, and the screen would slowly come down, and it would turn you into a playlist cover, a PlayStation 1 cover.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So who created is it CapCut? Is it something like that?
I'm not sure where that filter came. I mean, that's probably used by someone else before. I mean, it's probably not original to this campaign, but that is that was a catalyst for it to go boom like this. And then a famous dancer in Brazil took hold of it, and he did this incredible hip thrust dance, which is very amusing. But he did that, and then that absolutely blew up. Like, everyone was doing dances then to it. And so since then, we've kind of changed our strategy with him a bit, is that he has the freedom to put out loads of clips on his social media, or like songs that aren't even out, right? And we kind of would go through and sometimes we go, hey, okay, if that reacts, let's maybe pursue that a bit. Let's develop that song a bit. It's kind of a reverse engineering sort of thing.
Yeah.
Rather than going, let's wait for the music. Let's wait till he's got a full package, and then.
So let the market decide what's going to be the next hit.
Yeah, exactly
nice.
that. Yeah, letting social media essentially decide what isn't going to be the next hit. And I thought that was very interesting when the A&Rs kind of mentioned that. I don't know if I'm even allowed to mention that, but you know what? You've done it now, guys. Yes.
I do find social media is getting simpler now, in a sense where the content is just like
everyone's going to hate you for
camera.
that comment.
I know, but
they're going to be like, it's not simple because I'm struggling.
I know. I meant by the content.
Yes, it is. It's especially on YouTube as well.
If you watched our videos 3 or 4 years ago, we'd be like, you need to be like
so try harder.
Doing this the first 3 seconds, etc. I feel like the audience is changing a bit, where they're willing to give things a chance. And Maddie and I were talking on the way here about like YouTube now has changed in a sense where people are watching 1 hour videos, like Matt Armstrong rebuilding cars is like an hour long, and people are sticking it on. And
I think I saw a trend actually, a report that said that a lot of certainly Gen Z is transitioning to YouTube, and we're all watching watching our TV essentially for an hour. I mean, I do, to be honest. I sit there and I'll watch documentaries of what I'm interested in, or watch some of your videos, or watch clips from I don't know, some guy in Alaska who's building his hut, something like that. It's very niche stuff, right? But I love it, and so it's all there, and that's what I think everyone's doing. And YouTube's an incredibly important platform for artists, because another thing that someone told me was that the life cycle of content lives differently on YouTube compared to other platforms. So, TikTok, I think it's like the first 24 hours, you might know that if this is, reacting is doing well. And then Instagram, something like 48 hours, you'll know if this is doing well or not. Whereas I think someone said, YouTube is more like a week. It's got a week life cycle where, that could build over that week. And so I think that demonstrates the importance of occupying every platform still.
Yeah, especially in electronic dance space, there's a huge amount of listeners on there. So, I mean, you guys have your own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's a huge bonus, being able to just share the artists there. But do you have strategies for them posting their own stuff, or is it mainly audio? Like, what's the strategy there for YouTube?
Yeah. Ultra's YouTube channels, it's great. It's obviously a great promotional asset. It's a massive subscriber base. But I think a lot of artists are looking inwards as well. We've got an artist called Tripleism, we're definitely looking to build their YouTube channel up because they're an emerging artist. They're doing really well. Just been announced for Coachella as well, which is great.
Nice.
But yeah, they're definitely looking to build their own YouTube channel up. So, for them, using our YouTube channel and putting their assets on our YouTube channel wouldn't be so much a priority. I think what makes the YouTube channel important is for those straight up brand new artists.
You mentioned Frozy and how it blew up. What was it like before it blew up? Because I think a lot of artists listening or watching right now, it's like, what does it feel like when it's not blowing up, but it does? So if you could go back in time and describe it, was it a case of lots of failure, lots of trial and testing, just posting and nothing happening? Or did they post that piece of content a lot and it didn't pop off, and once it did, like what's the life like before it pops off?
I think it could be very frustrating for artists to constantly be putting your music out and nothing happening. With Frozy, that wasn't the case. He was always social media first. So he would put his clips out and then wait, and he would just put another one out, then another one out, another one out every other day. Or I think per month he puts out maybe like 30 clips of different songs. This guy's a prolific producer.
What were the views like on before one of them popped off? Was it like hundreds or thousands?
Hundreds. Yeah. Kind of what you'd expect from the TikTok algorithm. Like, I don't know. There is a standard sort of view count, isn't there?
Like 300.
Because I noticed that
300 view jail, everyone calls it.
That's right. Yeah. So I think they stay kind of in that region, and then when one pops off, it can change the game. And this is why I think the word that we should emphasize is consistency. Like, find your thing and be consistent with it, and kind of be true. Just keep going, because that's what Frozy did. He kept putting these videos of his door and of Logic up, and it just worked.
Never doubted himself. Never. Was there anyone putting pressure on it, saying, "What the hell are you doing this?"
Well, I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw it, I was like, "Really? Is that Is that the content, like the proposition?" But yeah, it worked, and because he has a niche, that is engaged with that sort of stuff. I suppose it must be the producer community, But for the way they blow up,
that must be hard as a label, because like, you're watching someone with great music post something that you can't see working, and then it does. How much freedom does the artist have? Because obviously you need them to do well, because you're taking a risk on each artist you sign. But do you kind of just have to trust the process and trust that they know their audience and their music best? Like, what's the balance between you controlling it and them being creative? Is there much of a balance?
That's why the A&R team has to liaise back and forth with them, because there is that battle of like artists regularly going, "You've got to put this out. This is it. This is the one." And the A&R team has to go back, of course, and be like, "Look, no, we've got to change this. We've got to do this. We've got to do that." We never want to force, opinion or say you've got to do this, you've got to post like this. And like I said earlier, they often throw the ideas back. I think as a marketing team, the worst thing you want to, the first thing to do is come up with no ideas at all, and just trust that the artist has got it all in hand. It has to work, hand in hand as a team effort.
Mm-hmm.
So after it does get traction and blow up, what happens then? Do you capitalize on it? Is it a case of just doing more of the same, or do you change the strategy a bit?
I never want to get into the bracket of just doing more of the same, and I think you'll never nothing will ever happen in terms of like what's next if you just stay in that more of the same lane. You've got to, I think, look at ways of diversifying the social media proposition. What's another angle off what I'm doing, which is already successful, that can take this even further, and constantly be trying different things. I think there is a recipe for some artists. I mean, live clips, like we've got an artist called Bamut Orhan, who he blew up through his content, and it's like POV sort of thing, like right in front of him, the cameras, and he's playing out to hundreds of fans, thousands of fans. He's a great looking guy, so all the content was just reacting. And back in like September 2023, we saw this incredible spike from his content, which I think he went from 500,000 Instagram followers to, in 2024, it went up to like 2 million followers. So from 500,000 to 2 million in that short space of time, literally from live videos of him. I love like dancing around the decks and things like this, but it's funny because that's what people, I think, obviously engaging with, and that's what happened.
So we're saying sort of something to put on in the background, almost, because is that
simple content?
Is that long content as well? Are you saying it's got an hour?
No. This is the complete opposite, really. So he was also a blessing for other artists. So Robin Sanchez is one of them. Robert Sanchez, sorry, and he did a remix of Robert Sanchez "Go," and the song is "Just Get Yush and Go." You might have heard that song, right? He goes do 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 do, right, and so he did his own little remix of that, and he played the original out in his sets, and that just blew. That was such a reactive song that he played in his sets, and it just went. And so these videos have now got like 80 million views of him just playing this record. And I think it's a perfect recipe, of him looking so great behind the decks, and his personal his personality comes across when he's behind the decks. He dances, he does, he's smiling, all these different things. And the angles are great with the camera. And then when the song's reactive as well,
you find it does convert, like you can see
with that. It absolutely.
So the clip will like blow up on social, and then you'll see that direct impact on DSPs.
With that song, yes, we did. Actually, that's a good point. I wanted to get into that. Is with TikTok and TikTok campaigns, we don't see, as a label, we don't see as much reaction.
Really? Not even since they've linked Spotify to it.
No. Well, no. So in recent times, for us, no.
Okay.
The past 6 months, I suppose we've been noticing this trend of some TikTok campaigns not reacting, and I think it comes back down to what is the creative as well. What is the idea behind all these campaigns? Because I think if you've not got a really solid idea about what is the creator doing, is there a trend that's worth following?
Well, so that it will do okay on TikTok, but you won't see it actually convert to any sort of streams.
Yeah.
But how about Instagram? Do you see Instagram more so?
We haven't had to. I can't really talk too much on that because we haven't had too many campaigns that have. It usually kind of transfers over to Instagram a bit. That's kind of a slow burn.
Yeah.
In my experience, it kind of starts with a TikTok boom, then transfers over to Instagram. But it's different. I think we've got an artist at the moment called Kideko. You know Kideko? He did that Crank It track, which was one of his big hits a good few years ago. But he's got this song at the moment with A-Track, which is brilliant, called Loving You. And the lyric is, I can't stop loving you. I was going to sing it then. But what people have done is we did this like creator challenge with an agency called Zeba, and they basically sent it out to all their creators, and they've come up with a bunch of different interpretations of that sound. And so one of them was this slide carousel post where people put "I can't stop." And on the second slide, "Loving you," with like pictures of their partners and all that sort of stuff. Kind of soppy, but it works, you know. And that's one of them trends which I never saw. I never foresaw that when we were doing the campaign and putting it together. I thought I was kind of going way too deep on it, I suppose, as a lot of us do marketers. We try and delve in so deep, come up with a really cool story idea, and it's often right there in front of you, isn't it?
Well, and that was an example of one where it did really, really well now.
It's starting to do well. I mean, I don't want to talk too soon, but that's a trend that we're going to pursue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do that sometimes then? Like a trend is starting to show some potential, and so you're like, let's go full steam ahead and like go more into that one. And then there's others where you've invested some money, time, and it's not really showing potential, so you'll pull back and focus on the next one.
I think that's a hard decision for any marketer actually at the moment. That's what we all face on a regular basis. Is like 3 trends emerge, don't they, from like one of those kind of campaigns? And that's the case with this song actually. 3 trends emerged, and you've got to. I think you have to drill down on which one you want to pursue. I think a lot of money does probably get wasted following or telling creators what to do. When you put briefs in front of them, you go, "You've got to do this dance." In my experience, it doesn't really work.
No, I think it's gone now, isn't it? It's just very oversaturated as well. So you're seeing dance routines being done over and over and over from an artist that maybe wouldn't even suit the creator. I think we're now very much in a time where it has to look organic, even if it's not. One thing that I'm noticing with TikTok now is it's less music focused. It's more based on it's similar to Vine, where it's like comedic or educational or rants or whatever. So now if you want to make some sound and impact with music, you have to be really creative, which this time, like 4 years ago, you didn't really need to. You just post and you saw some success, which is savage to say, because like obviously our listeners, they're in that position wanting to grow, but it is harder than ever. So you have to actually be creative with it. You have to, and that even the example you gave with the carousel, it doesn't have to actually be complex, but you have to just think of different things that are going to make someone want to get involved.
Talk about the Frozy campaign again, that PlayStation cover idea. Everyone loved it, and everyone wanted to take part just because, I used to love playing PlayStation personally back then. You see your face looking like a GTA character. It's fantastic. And everyone just caught on and did it.
I was going to ask actually, because you said that TikTok, I'm just going to throw this out there, TikTok and Instagram aren't necessarily converting to streams, but also TikTok is less focusing on like the music side, and it's more just like Vine. So what we're finding, for example, on our Burstamo account on both TikTok and Instagram is that a reel can get 2,000 views, which for us is low. We'd expect kind of between 10,000 and 40,000 on a reel. But on Instagram, it comes up, someone has followed you from this reel. The ones that get 2,000 views sometimes can be huge artists, all verified, 100,000. I'm like, so that didn't go viral, but for some reason, it hit a big artist who decided to follow.
So hit the right audience, basically.
Yeah. So what I was thinking was, is it now a case where TikTok and Instagram are moving to a way where every artist is trying to go viral, but that's not working? But if you can hit like an audience of, say, 3,000 people every single video, that's more likely to convert.
Yeah, going more niche, basically.
Streams. Yeah. And that's why it's not converting anymore.
I think a lot of artists forget that unfortunately being a musician is like being a business. A lot of them don't want to hear it, but that's the reality of it. And at the end of the day, each post, each song is trying to sell a product. So having a TikTok, having an Instagram that reaches people that are going to invest in that product is a lot better of a return than having a video go viral, unless it's going to cause this snowball effect where it continues to see success. I guess it's like the example you gave of the guy that just screen records his Ableton. Like, it got the niche, which long term like caused this snowball effect. which
I
in my
think for
opinion
me,
sounds better.
storytelling is the key for the future with artists,
Okay.
and doing bits in between those salesy posts
Yeah.
that you're talking about there. You know, how often do you switch off when you see an artist trying to sell music and it's very much forced in front of your face, and you know exactly. You can almost identify now. It's so like you're going to see it straight away, can't you? Well, I think the way you kind of ease that and probably get more engagement and make that more effective is by doing the bits in between that keep everyone on your journey. You know, doing that bits of storytelling, whether you're filming yourself live, going to gigs, you know, all these different things, and getting your personality across. Therefore, I think you can keep people on the journey with you. Whereas if you just pop out of nowhere randomly and go, you know, buy my music, listen to my music, everyone immediately goes, no.
I also think that the idea of telling the journey is so important in terms of there is very much an obsession with being the end product. So looking like an artist that is successful. So like paying to be verified and then having a professional photo shoot and everything looks like you're an established artist. When really, if you'd filmed yourself playing your first gig and only 2 people turned up and the caption is lol 2 people turns up, you're a lot more likely to get people involved because they're like, good on him, he's actually gone and played to 2 people, and then they see your next gig where you're playing to 10 people, and being involved in that journey is a lot more likely to pull in attention, especially because it's unique. I think we're very much in a time now where you've got 120,000 tracks uploaded to Spotify a day. What makes you different? And like, even from a label perspective, you're going to sign loads of artists, you have to find out how each one of them is different, and I bet it's hard.
It really is, and I think you've got to embrace it and just be honest and true, I think. And I read a book not long ago, actually. It was Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Oh yeah, no,
I think a lot of artists could probably you know do that. Is think about why you make music. What, you know, why do we all do it? I suppose why do we all market music? It's because it's that end result, maybe, you know, where people are, you know, camaraderie at Creamfields or wherever. That's just my experience, you know. And then I think we've got to think about those experiences at the end result, and kind of work backwards.
Like why you want to get to that end result. Is it for fame? Is it for the money? Or is it because you want as many people as possible to hear your music? I think maybe a lot of artists actually don't know what.
I think that's an instant failure if you're doing it for fame, or you're doing it for the material success. It's thinking, okay, what is the end result? For me, it's my dad dancing around the kitchen to Capital Dance, right? That fills my heart with joy. But you know, for the artists, it's different. There's different purpose, I suppose, for everyone. And I think find that purpose, you know, and then you can, and then I think you'll start to see. You'll just naturally start to see it. And I think you said on that podcast not long ago was people gravitate kind of towards you
and
because of doing that, just being true to yourself.
So obviously, when we worked on the project many years ago, I was watching Maddie do a lot of the PR and pitching and things like that. And it's interesting because back then it was like you got a little bit of credibility from someone and then more credibility and more credibility. Do you find like that is still the case now, where you've got to get those tiny little small wins, or does it all just happen at once?
No, I think celebrating the small victories along the way can make a massive difference, even though they might not seem massive to a major label, and we're now under kind of that major label umbrella. But we still do champion the small victories, absolutely, and building those up in the various different areas of promotion is really important, of course.
Is that still the case for Spotify editors as well? Like, is that what they want to see? Like, what do they want to see?
This is the thing. Not many people actually know, unless you talk to the Spotify editors themselves, right? What are they truly looking for? And I think the labels even struggle with that, knowing what. You know, we put all the stats together, and there's pillars of promo. I like to say, you know, you've got press, you've got club, radio, what else? We've got TV. You know, all these different areas that you want to try and build a story, and I think that's where any marketer kind of starts is those pillars of promo, and then you're trying to build up those little wins in each section. And what I do is bring it all kind of together into kind of a coherent report to present to different radio producers, to the DSPs and things like that. And it's tough to know to know exactly what they are looking for. And I think a lot of information that's within these reports nowadays is more irrelevant than ever, if that makes sense. And I don't want to kind of throw anyone under the bus here in terms of different areas of promo, but it's certain things that are becoming more relevant than others.
Yeah. No, I
social
completely
media,
agree.
reaction, engagement.
Press is
Shazam's.
definitely less credible, but it's still like
Yeah,
ticking that box, isn't it?
it is ticking that box, and a lot of marketers, I think, certainly with major budgets, probably go, "Oh, let's just tick all the boxes." You know, we're certainly a bit more focused in our approach now, I think, and going. Where do we need it the most? Where do we really want to bolster?
So where do we feel these areas are? So you said like press, club.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one that I think it's mainly the electronic space, but you don't really think about. TV, you said? So is that like sync?
Well,
placement?
TV, yeah. That's kind of a subtle one on the side. It's not really like something that you'd integrate straight into the campaign. It's something that, I have a sync team, Ultra, that is constantly working and pitching our records to TV. And so yeah, it's part of the mix, but it's certainly not integral. And the thing is, it can change the game when you get a TV sync. If that happens, like during your campaign, you're on fire, because we had it actually with Hannah Once, and Jaguar Land Rover came on board to use her single in, I think it was called I Don't Want to Know, and they used that song in their advert, and it just changed the game for that song. Yeah.
You see Shazam's just going up massively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, we said press, TV, radio,
DSPs. I think you can say
yeah.
is in that mix.
Do you find that if they get like, I don't know, placement on Amazon or Deezer, it's a lot easier to get Spotify because they trust that it's probably performing quite well?
We do kind of do that, actually. Is using the information from one platform to use it, say it to another. And a lot of people are very wary about, can I do that? Can I mention Apple playlisting to Spotify? Can I do it? It's like subtly putting it across, I think, and going, well, look, we've got support everywhere else. Can we get a little bit of something here? I find that Spotify is the hardest nut to crack in terms of playlisting. It's a bit hit and miss. We get great coverage, and sometimes it's not. And I think that is partly down to us as well. It's not keeping that story consistent, or there's many various other factors, I suppose, to why that might break down. But I can say I've never seen it consistently, someone consistently not get player support. If it misses one record, there's many reasons why that could be the case.
Yeah, I think it's just harder because there's less of them now per playlist, so they're all working loads of playlists, so they're then having to kind of not copy and paste, but use artists across playlists that they know are going to bring in the streams. Because there's just so much music, it's getting more nerve-wracking for them to put on something that they're kind of taking a risk, which is harder for the label because they want them to take the risk because they've taken the risk themselves. Yeah,
absolutely. That's why it's important, I think, for labels to kind of take it in their own hands a bit and develop their own playlist, their own brands. I look at Defectors and I think they do a fantastic job of building their brand, don't they? And, there's many facets to it, the live game, the playlists, this sort of thing. And we do as well, Ultra, of course. We have that footprint, and certainly more in the US, I think. But we build our playlist ecosystem. We do trades with those playlists every week with all the different labels, which is, although it seems small, it's part of the mix, and that really does help those.
What do you mean by trade? So you guys talk to the labels and you're like, hey, do you want to put our artist on your playlist and you put yours on?
Yeah,
nice.
Everyone at labels is a little bit of a tastemaker themselves, and the guys that are operating the playlist have the ability to add them or not add them, And so we pitch to each other and share music, every Friday usually.
I think that's great for the algorithm as well. Like that's what the algorithm's looking for, is just loads of playlist ads alongside similar artists, and you're kind of using that to trigger the algorithm. Rather than the editors themselves, which I'm going to clip something you said to respond to everybody who says that the labels like Sony have an advantage over on editor.
I know, when you said, we actually don't know what they want, I was like, that's gold.
They don't. It's just pitching like everybody else.
Talk on that point a little bit more. When Ultra was 50% owned by Sony, it was operating completely as an independent, and we would have to pitch like every other independent to the likes of Spotify, Apple, Amazon. And it is more difficult, I think, to maintain those kind of relationships at that scale, smaller scale, and keep it and get the kind of same attention, I think, that maybe majors do get. But usually majors have a whole team, right? Commercial sort of team designated to almost like one person for each DSP in it sometimes. And so, and they have a hell of a lot of music to also get across. And so, you know, it's with independence, it's if you can establish those relationships, you know, you're doing fantastic, because there's so many labels that would kill or you would love to have that connection, and that's a really tough to get into that space, I think.
Did you find it changed when Sony took full ownership? Was it that little bit easier because they were like,
no,
Sony, really?
Not at all. Actually, I think people were a little bit confused at where the label maybe's going and things. It's all up in the air a little bit, and then it's kind of we have to kind of bring them back. We still have reps and things like that. We still communicate to the same people that we always have been, but they're all fully aware of what's happened and things. It's all very well documented in Music Business Worldwide and things like that. So I'm not sure actually subtly if it changes anything, because we haven't really noticed an increase or decrease in our playlisting.
You'd think everyone thinks like as soon as, say, a label's taken on by a major, it's like every artist is suddenly playlisted overnight.
No.
It shows it's not
just
like that.
feels that way because there's so many signed artists, I think.
Yeah,
so
true.
Of course you're gonna, because if an artist's good, it's probably worthy of a playlist spot, and therefore you're gonna look at whether they're signed. Of course they're gonna be signed because the labels discovered them, and then it's not because they're signed to the label.
That comes back to my earlier point. It's having that consistent story and having a wider proposition and communicating that message over a longer time rather than having one-off singles, you know, that I think really helps in keeping those conversations going with the DSPs and stuff. When we update them, yes, it's about new music, but it's often sometimes about like what live gigs and things they've got coming up, or if they're doing a show in London, like Tripleism are doing a show in London in February. This is their first relatively big size sort of gig in this market, and so we're going to be inviting everyone down and kind of, you know, make a big deal out of it.
Yeah,
and that's what we do in all the other markets as well. When they go to Germany or they go anywhere else, is getting everyone down so they can see it in first hand.
Nice, good place to leave it.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for watching or listening. If you were listening on podcast platforms, drop it a like if you found it useful, and subscribe if you're not already.